Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for clicking on the video. We're out on the North West coast again this week for an overnighter. We are just south of Ullapool, and you might be able to see behind me quite an impressive hill, which is Ancient. And Ancient is quite a famous hill, especially amongst hill walkers, so some of you might know it already. But the plan for this weekend is to head right out into the hills, quite a remote spot, and we're looking for a very small Caledonian pinewood fragment that has somehow survived. Apparently it's only 100 mature trees, so it's very small, and it's in a very steep gorge tucked in behind this mountain. It's a decent walk in. It's about 11 or 12 kilometres one way, but there's a loch that we're hoping to reach that's near the pinewood, and we'll set up camp there. I've got my new MSR tent out finally, the Elixir 2, so we'll see how that performs. But the weather is absolutely incredible. You know, when it's like this on the west coast, it's still mild, cool nights, no mids yet. It's just perfect. The west coast is definitely the best place to be. I've got Darach on the lead just now because we're walking through a bit of old wood pasture. There's quite a lot of livestock in here. There's some sheep, or there were some sheep behind me. A lot of sheep lambing and stuff at the moment, so I think once we get out of this section I can let them off once we're onto the mountain pass properly. Hey? You don't like it? But we'll get going. We've got a lot of walking still to do, and we'll see how we get on. Plenty of woolly maggots anyway, eating everything in sight. A crofter and his son passed me in a Argo. They're basically gathering the sheep, and a lot of them were actually in this planting scheme to the right of me, which is fenced but it's obviously not secure, so even when people go to the effort to plant these woodlands and fence them, you know, there's still sheep in there stopping any natural regeneration. The planting's done well, so it must have been protected for a while, but you know, you would hope that would mature, start to seed naturally and fill in the gaps, but if you put sheep back in, then that's just not going to happen, which is a shame. And this is why nothing grows outside of a fence in the Highlands. So we're basically walking along essentially an old right-of-way, an old, you know, historic mountain pass, a drove road, something like that. And it's quite a common thing in Scotland. You find these mountain passes that took traffic, you know, cattle, whatever, you know, over the hills between glens. More often than not, you would have, you know, a different small community based in each glen, and there is actually an old township near to where we're going, and a bothy, Shenaville bothy, and yeah, we're at the highest point just now, marked by this cairn, and and now we start to descend down to the bothy, to the loch, and then round to the Pinewood, hopefully. But you can see behind me a really good view of Ancient now, and it's quite well known because it's got a very well known ridge. A bit of airy scrambling is required to cross it, and you can probably make out yeah, so we're heading right here over the hill and round the back of Ancient, but you can do a loop and we may come back this way. I'll see how I feel tomorrow. Just thought I'd take a minute whilst we've got a good overview of the glen. You know, there should be forest all the way through this glen and scrub, but it's been cleared and burned decades ago. High numbers of sheep and deer on the land have stopped anything regenerating back. The seed source has been removed, so there's nothing to naturally regenerate. And the soils out here are poor. You know, they're very acidic, peaty, things don't grow fast. Things struggle to grow, so when you've got established woodlands out here from a long time ago and you clear them, it can take, you know, centuries, and that's under the right conditions, to bring them back. And that's why I get so depressed when I see these areas, because they're so far away from what they should be. So we're heading down the hill proper now. You can see the bigger loch in the distance. That's what we're aiming for. First tree I've seen in a few kilometres since I came up from the other side where the sheep were. It's a rowan clinging on for dear life. I can see one more. I don't know if the camera pick it up just in the sun there. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff missing here. So we've got first sight of the bothy now. This is Fisherfield Bothy. It's quite popular with hill walkers because, as you've seen, there's plenty to do around here. But we're going to make our way down there, and there's a path that should head out to the right, and that'll take us down to the loch and hopefully somewhere near this Pinewood remnant. all the way through the bottom of this glen. You can see evidence of big tree roots of trees that would have filled this glen at one point. It's just quite depressing, to be honest. An old gnarled alder that survived. You can see a lot of browsing on the newer shoots at the base. I hate to think how old some of these things are. I started wandering up the hill to look at this pine remnant. Go on in. And yeah, I had to stop myself and take a proper break and have something to eat. I've got loads of time, so it's only 3:30 at the moment. So yeah, I'll have a coffee, something to eat just now. Maybe set the tent up and then go for a bit of a wander up the hill. Right, the tent's all set up. It was relatively straightforward. I had set it up at home once just to see how it all worked. I was a little worried about the poles in this thing. Just don't fill me with confidence, especially after the first set snapped. And you know, if you walk all the way out here and they snap, then you're a bit screwed. But it's 10 to 5 now, and yeah, I think I'm going to go head up there to check out this pinewood. You can just make out my tent down on the beach. Let's see if we can zoom in. Yep, you can just see it. And we're maybe halfway up to the waterfall. But what a night. Doesn't get much better than this. Holy f***ing shit. That is incredible. That just fills me with I can't even speak. It just fills me with joy and despair at the same time. This forest should be spread out all over this glen. Well, that was well worth the walk up the hill. Very interesting. Yeah, I doubt many people have actually laid eyes on that Pinewood remnant. It's pretty remote. You know, a bit of effort to get out just to hear, and then to actually know about it, and then walk all the way up the hill to have a look. Yeah, I can't see many people having done that. Yeah, feeling a bit tired now with the heat as well. That's about 13 kilometres for the day. A bit of uphill too. So I'm going to feed Darach now, and probably feed myself as well. I'm just going to have another summit to eat meal, and yeah, just enjoy this weather. It's unbelievable. Are you hungry? Are you hungry? You want your food? So do I. Better do the old feeding a dog shot so people know I'm looking after you. Go on in. Morning, folks. Pretty good night's sleep. It was very still, very mild. Yeah, slept all the way through. Well, as you can see, it's a beautiful morning. It's so still. Quite mild again already. But
unfortunately I'm not going to hang about. I'll get packed up here soon. Got the 12k walk out and then a couple hours drive home, so yeah, I need to get moving. But thanks again for watching the video. It's been another good one. Glad I made the effort to come out here. I think I definitely will come back. I haven't actually done any of the hills in this area, so yeah, I'll come back at some point and maybe do some of them. But as always, check out the links in the description. Like, share, subscribe, do all those interactive things, and yeah, it really helps the channel. But if you want to hear a bit more about the pinewood found in here and just issues in general with these types of glens and in the Highlands, then stick around. But if not, I will see you on the next video. Hi folks, thanks for sticking around again for Forest Thoughts. A bit of a more interesting one this week. I've obviously come out to find a very remote and small Caledonian Pinewood remnant. The main reason I'm out here and that I knew about it at all was because of this book, which I'll give you a close-up and I'll link it in the description as well. But it's basically the Ancient Pinewoods of Scotland, a companion guide. Actually a guidebook for walks into all the recorded Caledonian Pinewood remnants. I suppose I should start by maybe explaining what a ancient or natural pinewood remnant is. I'm going to use this book to help me, because if you follow me or subscribe to me for any length of time, you know that I end up just rambling. This book, it says, in Scotland today the terms ancient and natural are used to describe woodlands which have originated before 1750 without human planting or influence from cultural activities such as timber felling and livestock grazing. So basically this little remnant is a tiny little bit of the original forest that's survived. So yeah, it's Sunday morning at the moment. I actually went up and had a look at the remnant yesterday evening when the light was nicer. So I'll put in a few clips now. Unfortunately it was quite breezy, so I don't know how much of me talking you'll be able to make out, but I'll put some clips in so at least you can see what I'm talking about, and then I'll come back and talk a bit more about it. So this is the start of the fence. They've obviously fenced an area around this gorge, protecting what was there and giving it room to spill out naturally. Some of these trees are huge. good either. They'll just eat everything too. I didn't even know there was goats out this way. Doesn't surprise me though. Just come across a small patch of birch regen outside of the fence, which is a little bit encouraging. It's been chewed. I don't know if the camera will pick that up. You can see the ends. It's getting chewed quite regularly, but it is here, and there's a few. There's a few here. Just a couple of the big pine tree stumps I was talking about earlier. Here. So yeah, hopefully you can see at least that, you know, an incredible little remnant. I read in here that it was down to just 100 trees, but the photo that was in the book didn't really give much context, so I wasn't sure what to expect. The best part of the remnant's right at the top of the gorge there, and yeah, just really nice. But at the same time, quite depressing, because you know that should be everywhere through here, and unfortunately it's not. You would have seen it's fenced. It's got a deer fence around it, so someone is trying to protect it. There's a little bit of regen in places, but not a huge amount, and I think that fence, looking at the condition of the wooden posts, it's got to be at least 10-15 years, so it's been a while. The top corners starting to go. I think it's basically, you get these fences on steep ground like that, and snow builds up behind it, and it's just the weight of the snow pushes these fences over, so I suspect that's what's happened. There's goats in there too, which is a little disappointing, because they will just eat everything that they see. These fences are, you know, they're so out of the way, and they won't be high up on the estate's, you know, priority list, and they'll get overlooked. And it doesn't take long for, you know, a deer or a goat to do quite a bit of damage on any regen coming through. But some of you may be thinking, like, why did that survive and nothing else? And part of the reason is because it's in such a steep gorge. So some trees will just be physically inaccessible to anything that wants to eat them, you know, because of the sheer cliff, you know, they can't get to them. But yeah, another reason probably is that the gorge itself, if there's any fire, you know, either natural or man-made, and fire was used quite a lot to clear these glens of trees to create more grassy conditions for livestock. As the fire comes across the hill, you know, sweeps across the hill, because that woodland's kind of down in the gorge, the fire kind of sweeps over the top of it, you know, instead of really getting into the woodland and damaging it. So essentially that's why, or one of the reasons why it would have survived. And you see that a lot in the Highlands. You know, you'll see just remnant trees in a little gorge, and often that's what's happened. They're just either inaccessible to grazing animals or inaccessible by fire. And actually, when I was younger, you know, I used to get out in the hills quite a lot, do walking with the family and stuff, and I used to see these sort of single trees or, you know, remnant trees in these like really tricky places, and I feel like some people think these trees are almost a pioneer, like, oh, look how well that tree's done to come in here and find a space to live, when really it's just a lucky survivor. And yeah, as I was walking around when I was younger, I did used to think, you know, if that tree's there, where are the rest? Why are the others not here? You know, why that one tree? And that, I think that kind of sparked my interest in all this stuff quite early on. I didn't really understand back then, but obviously, you know, that led to me reading and learning and other things. It's so important to protect these places now because there's a growing awareness that we need to restore these places, and it's incredibly difficult to restore these places. And if you've got no seed source, you're talking planting, and to plant in areas like this is very difficult, very expensive. But if you've already got a mature seed source, then you know you're already miles ahead. I think we're on the cusp now of some pretty big changes. You know, the upland sheep has been found out as not being sustainable. You know, the deer estates is not sustainable. You know, we need woodlands and natural habitats back in these glens, and whether it be a change of ownership or financial incentive, which I think it might be for a lot of people, at least to begin with, you know, that could happen, you know, summer like this. And if all of a sudden the objective is to restore woodland and you have an ancient remnant like this, that's fantastic. So when you see forest written in English on maps, especially in the north of Scotland, like in here, this is the Fisherfield Forest, and it's nothing to do with trees. That's a term used to describe a deer forest, so a large area of land given over to purely managing high populations of deer for shooting. Anyway, I hope you found this interesting. There's a couple of other remote remnants that I'd like to visit and maybe make a video if people are interested. Like I say, I doubt many people have actually laid eyes on this one. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this and you found it interesting, and I will see you on the next video.